Hello, Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, as you can see, this week I am not in my office. I'm out on the road working, but I still want to bring you some very important news stories. First of all, we're going to look at the end of the lawmaking time here in Kentucky's 2025 legislative session. And then we're also going to be looking about how there's this big news story about President Trump in a showdown with a Kentucky congressman. But first, let's look at the end of the 2025 Kentucky legislative year. Under Kentucky law, the legislature this year can pass laws up until midnight on March the 15th. As I'm recording this, they've got about 2.5 days before that deadline, and there's going to be all kinds of things put up for last-minute votes. On next week's program, we're going to be looking at some of the things that have become law that you'll need to know about, some of the things that failed, and what's really, I think, most interesting to everyone will be the laws that were not allowed to come up for a vote and who was stopping those. And I think you will find that very informative. So make sure you tune into next week's program to see an analysis of what became law, what didn't, and all the things in between. Now, after the March the 15th, the legislature is going to stop for 10 days. During those 10 days, the governor, under the Constitution, will have that time to either sign or veto all the laws they passed. However, Sundays don't count as a workday in those 10 days. Now, where do you think the founding fathers who wrote the Kentucky Constitution got the idea that you shouldn't have to work 7 days a week? Of course, that is a biblical principle. Right in the Bible, it says you work 6 days and then you take a day of rest. That is a biblical principle being put into place and action right now under the Kentucky Constitution for this 10-day sign or veto, Sundays don't count, period. After that, they'll come back into session for 2 days to consider overriding any vetoes that the governor may have issued, and we'll be keeping you updated on all of those. So make sure you stay tuned for the next few weeks to find out what passed and what didn't, and new laws you'll need to know about. But secondly, this week, I want to be talking about this showdown between President Trump and a Kentucky congressman. It is the congressman who represents Kentucky's 4th congressional district. You can see here on the map, it's part of northern Kentucky, those counties in the green area. It's Representative Thomas Massie, and he's in a battle with President Trump. Well, actually, more specifically, President Trump is in a battle with him. And it really seems to be one-sided in that. And this is not a topic that I actually want to talk about. I agree with President Trump about 99% of the time. You never agree with somebody 100% of the time. However, I also agree with Representative Massie about 99% of the time. So this would be most easy to just ignore this and not talk about it. But I got a funny feeling that conservatives who watch Patriot Point, they like somebody with a spine that's actually going to talk about the issues of the day instead of trying to ignore them. So we're going to hit these, and I hope you'll appreciate the things that you learn here on the channel. Here's the controversy. Representative Massie has sided with the Democrats, being the only Republican in the House of Representatives up there in D.C., to vote against Trump's bill for what's called the continuing resolution. This is what would continue to fund the government to the end of the fiscal year, which would be to the end of September. Now, if this vote were to fail, then we would have, it's been called the government shutdown, and it would be on the Republicans' heads if that didn't happen, and Trump doesn't want to have a government shutdown on his watch. However, Congressman Massie has voted no because he said, listen, this is not a balanced budget, so I cannot vote for it for that reason. The Democrats have voted against it because they just hate Trump, and I don't care if he did anything, they would vote against it. Massie, however, is doing this not because it's popular, not because it's easy. In fact, it is unpopular and it is not easy, and it doesn't gain him anything but pain. So yet he still voted for it, and he's doing this on principle. And whether you like it or not, I can respect somebody standing on principle. And I want to give you Congressman Massie's own words on why he did not vote yes for this CR, or continuing resolution to fund the government, and took a vote against President Trump on this. This is his own words. The CR isn't Trump's agenda. The CR extends the last year of Biden's agenda at substantially the same spending limits. He went on to say, quit funding the programs that DOJ cut. And that's the big problem, is if they approve this, it's going to refund all of these different programs that DOJ has cut their funding in the past few months. So why are we cutting their funding and then having this resolution to put their funding back in for 6 more months? So you can see really both sides of this. President Trump has said that he would like to have the time between now and when this resolution would run out in September to make a great bill that would have balanced budget and cut the funding for the bad things. However, Congressman Massie is like, I'm not going to compromise and continue to fund this stuff when we already know that it's money we should not be spending on crazy things. So you can understand the controversy that Kentucky conservatives are having, because you can really see both sides of this issue. Now, here's something that every Kentucky conservative needs to keep in mind. This did pass the House of Representatives. So next week it is going to the United States Senate. And Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is expected to stand with Congressman Massie and vote no on this measure. Now, that's going to throw a chink in everything in the argument right there. Mitch McConnell is expected to vote yes on this, along with a half dozen or more Democrats. So you can really see where this is coming down to a battle. In the Senate, there's going to be a vote for what's called cloture. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but that's a vote to say we are going to end debate on this and just call for a vote. It's expected that Senator Paul will vote yes on that cloture, or however it's pronounced, to end debate, but then vote no on the bill itself. Because President Trump sees Congressman Massie, the only Republican that stood against him on this as an opponent to what he's trying to accomplish up there in Washington, he has literally said, quote, that this is President Trump's words, quote, I will lead the charge against him, end quote. And he is currently looking for a Republican conservative to run against Thomas Massie in the primary next year. Over the years that Thomas Massie has been in Congress, he has had 3 different Republican challengers in the primary for his position. None of those challengers even got more than 25% of the vote. So he doesn't really feel very threatened by President Trump in this. But if you can get President Trump to endorse a conservative candidate against Thomas Massie, I think we will have a very interesting race and see conservatives coming down on both sides of that race. And I really wish that I could just sit these two down in a room together without any cameras and be like, you need to talk to each other about what's really going on. I think if I could get these two guys in a room, no cameras around, for about an hour to talk to each other, I think they'd leave the room, be on the same page, and it would be great for America, the state of Kentucky, and both of their political careers. However, for some reason, President Trump and Congressman Massie have not asked me to sit down and work as an arbiter between them. However, feel free to give me a call. I know Congressman Massie at least has my phone number. So this is the issue, and how you can really see kind of positions on both sides, how each of them are correct, but is this the hill to die on? We'll see how all this plays out, especially when next week it comes up for a vote of the Senate, and we'll make sure to keep you informed on that. So until next week, Patriots, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.